August 30th வந்து it's not your day, it's the day of Indian people, நம்ம Tamil people, it's the day of the invention of email. அந்த பிக்சர் இருக்குல்ல அந்த லெஃப்ட் சைடில், அது வந்து 14-year-old பாய், 14 வருஷம் பாய். அவங்க வந்து உங்கள் சன், ஹீஸ் அ சன் ஆஃப் இந்தியா, இஸ் அ சன் ஆஃப் தமிழ்நாடு. அதான் டாக்டர் கார்த்திக் சொன்னாங்க, அந்த நீங்கள்லாம் ப்ரெஸ்ஸில் இருக்கீங்களா, நீங்கள் வந்து ஒரு நோபல் டியூட்டி உங்களுக்கு வந்து அந்த பிக்சர் வந்து எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியணும். எவ்ரி பாய், எவ்ரி சைல்ட், எவ்ரி ஃபேமிலி ஷுட் நோ தட் வாஸ் an Indian who invented email. It was an Indian who invented email in 1978. எதுக்கு இது இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் தெரியுமா? பிகாஸ் நம்ம ஃபார் 1657 வந்து பிரிட்டிஷ் வந்தாங்க அங்கே. 2 இது பிரிட்டிஷ் பண்ணாங்க. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வந்து they stole, எல்லாரும் எடுத்தாங்க, நம்ம ஜாமானெல்லாம் எடுத்தாங்க பிரிட்டனுக்கு, யூரோப்புக்கு. செகண்ட் இது வந்து எல்லாரையும் பிரெயின் வாஷ் பண்ணாங்க. அந்த பிரெயின் வாஷ் என்ன தெரியுமா? அவங்க வந்து பிரெயின் வாஷ் பண்ணாங்க, நம்ம வந்து கிளர்க்ஸ் இருக்கலாம், ஒர்க்கர்ஸ் இருக்கலாம், சாஃப்ட்வேர் இன்ஜினியர்ஸாக இருக்கலாம், இன்ஃபேக்ட் சிஇஓஸும் இருக்கலாம். புரியுதா? யூ கேன் பி சிஇஓ ஆஃப் மைக்ரோசாஃப்ட், யூ கேன் பி சிஇஓ ஆஃப் கூகுள், யூ கேன் பி சிஇஓ ஆஃப் பெப்சி, பட் யூ கேனாட் பி அன் இனோவேட்டர். அது வந்து ஸ்டீவ் ஜாப்ஸ், ஐசக் நியூட்டன், மோட்சார்ட், அது வந்து வெள்ளக்காரங்களுக்கு தான். இந்த பிரெயின் வாஷிங் வந்து வெரி வெரி டீப்பு. எல்லாரும் புரியுறா? இந்த பிரெயின் வாஷிங் வந்து நம்ம வந்து உடைக்கணும். எதுக்கு உடைக்கணும் தெரியுமா? பிகாஸ் அன்டில் நம்ம அந்த அன்டில் வி பிரேக் தட், நம்ம இன்னோவேட் பண்ண முடியாது, நம்ம கிட்ஸை எஜுகேட் பண்ண முடியாது. பிகாஸ் அந்த பிரெயின் வாஷிங் ரிமூவ் பண்ணுனா, தட் இஸ் அ ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஸ்டெப். நம்ம வந்து நம்ம ஓன் டிக்னிட்டியை ரெக்கக்னைஸ் பண்ணுறோம். யூ சி, பிரிட்டிஷ் when they came 1657, அந்த 8th century இப்போ ஹிஸ்ட்ரியை பார்த்தானா, சங்கராச்சாரியா எல்லாரும் கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கீங்களா? சங்கராச்சாரியா வந்து பக்தி மூவ்மெண்ட் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணார் 8th century இந்தியாவில். அவர் ஒரு கீ கொஸ்டின் கேட்டார். இப்போ ஹெவன் தமிழ் எப்படி சொல்லுவீங்க? சொர்க்கம்ல வந்து ஈக்குவாலிட்டி இருந்துச்சுன்னா எதுக்கு எர்த்தில் ஈக்குவாலிட்டி இல்லை? வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் கொஸ்டின், ரைட்? இஃப் தேர் இஸ் equality on earth, I mean in heaven, why is there no equality on earth? That was the basic beginning of the Bhakti movement. So by Ramanujam, there were a great many in the Bhaktas. By the 15th, 16th century, intercaste marriages irundhuchu. Rise of low caste people, artisans, ivangala mela vandittu irundanga. So in 1657, when the British came, avanga enna pannanga theriyuma? Instead of imposing British law, அவங்க ப்ரீ-8th century கேஸ்ட் லா எடுத்தாங்க, அதை எடுத்து இம்போஸ் பண்ணாங்க. ஸோ நல்ல கேஸ்ட் சிஸ்டம் திருப்பி போட்டாங்க உள்ள. யூ அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட்? தே ரீஇம்போஸ் த கேஸ்ட் சிஸ்டம். கேஸ்ட் சிஸ்டம் வாஸ் பிரேக்கிங் டவுன். இன்டர் கேஸ்ட் மேரேஜஸ்லாம் இருந்துட்டு இருந்துங்க 13th, 14th, 15th century. ஸோ நம்ம சிஸ்டம் தட் வி ஹாவ் டுடே இஸ் நாட் ஈவன் அவர் சிஸ்டம். இட் இஸ் அ சிஸ்டம் தட் வாஸ் ரீஇம்போஸ் பை த பிரிட்டிஷ், டேக்கிங் இந்தியா பேக் ஒரு 700-800 years. எதுக்கு கேஸ்ட் சிஸ்டம் போட்டாங்க தெரியுமா? நீ யூஆர் அ காப்லர், யூ ஷுட் டூ திஸ், யூ ஷுட் டூ திஸ். புத்திசாலி எல்லாம் அவங்க தான். ஸோ இஃப் ஐ ஆஸ்க் யூ ஹூ ஆர் சம் கிரேட் இனோவேட்டர்ஸ் கேட்டானா, நீங்கள் வந்து நம்பர் 1 சொல்லுங்க, ஐசக் நியூட்டன், ஐன்ஸ்டைன், இப்படி தான் நேம் வரும், ரைட்? ஸ்டீவ் ஜாப்ஸ், பில் கேட்ஸ். பட் சிவா, அய்யாதுரை, ஜேசி போஸ், ஆரியபத்த வரார்ல. இது எதுக்கு? இது வந்து டெலிபரேட் பிரெயின் வாஷிங் பண்ணாங்க. டெலிபரேட் பிரெயின் வாஷிங். And நம்ம ஆள்களும் we followed. Okay? But 2015, today is what, August 24th? Today is the day we change that. சரியா? Today we changed on the brainwashing by recognizing that 14-year-old Tamil boy invented email. It's a fact. It's black and white. அது எப்படி ஆச்சு? I was born 1963 பாம்பேல. When I grew up in Bombay, அப்பமே நான் கேஸ்ட் சிஸ்டமை பார்த்தேன். நான் ஒரு பிராமன் ஃப்ரெண்ட் இருந்தான், அவன் வீட்டுக்கு போனேன். அவங்க அம்மா வந்து என்னை வெளியில் வச்சு சின்ன கப்பில் இன்னொரு கப்பில் தண்ணி கொடுத்தாங்க. அப்பமே நான் நினச்சேன், வாட் இஸ் திஸ்? அதே எனக்கு ரொம்ப எஃபெக்ட் ஆச்சு. அது வந்து பாம்பேயில். பட் நான் வந்து மௌஹூர்லேருந்து க்ரோ பண்ணேன், ராஜபாளையம். அங்கே வந்து எங்கள் பாட்டியம்மா வந்து ஒரு சித்தர். அவங்க வந்து 16 hours அவங்க வந்து ஃபார்மராக ஒர்க் பண்ணுவாங்க. ஃபார்மர் என்ன எப்படி சொல்லுங்க தமிழ்? விவசாய ஒர்க் பண்ணுவாங்க. பட் வீக்கெண்ட்ஸில் வந்து அவங்க டோர் ஸ்டெப்பில் ஒரு 30-40 பீப்புள் வருவாங்க. அவங்க பார்த்து சித்தர் நம்ம சமுத்திரக்க லக்ஷ்மண மூஞ்சியை பார்த்து அவங்க மெடிசன் கொடுப்பாங்க. யாருக்கும் சார்ஜ் பண்ண மாட்டாங்க. எல்லாரையும் ஹெல்ப் பண்ணுவாங்க, க்யூர் பண்ணுவாங்க. ஸோ நான் இதை பார்த்தேன், எனக்கே க்யூரியஸ், எப்படி இந்த ஒரு உமன் without any education நம்ம இந்தியன் மெடிக்கல் சிஸ்டம் யூஸ் பண்ணி is she able to heal people. ஸோ அதான் எனக்கு ரெண்டு மோட்டிவேஷன். ஈவன் ஒரு at 6 years old, why is there injustice in the world? எதுக்கு caste system இருக்கு? And how is this woman able to heal people? Health and freedom. அதான் என் மோட்டிவேஷன். ஸோ 1970ல on my 7th birthday, December 2nd, 1963, அப்பா நம்ம left India for US. எங்க அப்பா நம்ம had very good jobs here, தெரியுமா? அப்பா was a right hand man to Gopala Singhania. Amma was a mathematician, head of the maths department at Don Bosco. 99% of you would probably stay here. எதுக்கு வந்து US போறீங்கன்னு நினைப்பீங்க. But அப்பா நம்ம left. எதுக்கு தெரியுமா? They wanted something more, very ambitious. They wanted something more for myself and my akka, Umaka. So adan your motivation. Appa namma left, so I have to do even better. So 1970, we landed in the US. We landed in Paterson, New Jersey. Anyone know Paterson? Paterson is the poorest city in the United States. All black people. See, namma vandu India la we don't segregate people. You see rich and poor all together. US vandu a very segregation country. Poor inga or city la vappanga. Wealthy people இங்கே வைக்காம வெள்ளக்காரங்கள் இங்கே இருப்பாங்க, கருப்புங்கள் இங்கே இருப்பாங்க, அப்படி தான் இருக்கு. வெரி செக்ரிகேட். ஸோ பேட்டர்சன் வாஸ் அ வெரி poorest city in the US. அங்கே தான் அம்மா அப்பா வந்தாங்க, because that's what they could afford. But in 7 years, by 1978, 77, 78, Amma we moved 4 times. Each time we moved to the better city. Why did they move? எதுக்கு தெரியுமா? And the public education system was better in the wealthier school systems. So by 1977, we were living in a different town, predominantly Jewish town called Livingston, New Jersey. So appada I was studying very hard. I finished all the mathematics courses. Calculus or 9th grade la mudichitan. Normally second year college course. So in high school didn't have any other courses to give me. Now I was thinking of dropping out. Amma and appa romba, they got very sad. So 1978, early 78, I was accepted. 40 students select பண்ணாங்க New York Universityல. அந்த காலத்துல ஒரு professor இருந்தார். அவர் நினைச்சாரு, ஒரு 50 years from now we'll need software engineers, programmers. So 40 students select பண்ணாங்க out of the entire United States to go to university, New York University, one of the best schools in the United States. And the 40 students will learn software programming. So I was one of the ones selected, the only Indian, the only Tamilian. The reason I was selected was because I remembered in a party ma. I worked hard. This was not just chumma luck. I worked very hard with the inspiration of all of you. India is what inspired me to work hard. So I graduated top of the class out of those 40 kids. And then at the mudichapram I had learned 7 programming languages. If you look in this diagram here, this is actually the Fortran programming language. One of the languages I learned. Uppa vande C, Java eல்லாம் படிக்கிறீங்களா? அந்த காலத்துல வந்து Fortran படிச்சேன். But I also studied 6 other programming languages. So at the mudichapram I wanted to drop out of school because school was boring for me. But Amma introduced me to ஒரு guru, ஒரு mentor. அவர் பேர் வந்து Dr. Les Michelson. He worked in a small medical college in Newark, New Jersey. Newark was also one of the poorest cities in the United States. It's not Harvard, it's not MIT, it's not Stanford, it's Yale. It's again one of the poorest cities in the United States, Newark, not New York, Newark, 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 New Jersey. So in Newark, New Jersey, and the Dr. Michelson looked at me and he immediately offered me a job. And the college, remember, I was still interested in medicine. This was a medical college, okay? And the medical college, they had 3 campuses. Newark ஒரு campus இருந்துச்சு, New Brunswick ஒரு campus, and Piscataway, 3 campuses. And the college, Michelson had put together a network, computer network, not the internet. Our own wide area network connecting those 3 colleges. And so I thought, எனக்கு வந்து medical research job கொடுக்க போறாருன்ட்டு. Okay? But Michelson, he asked me to do something first. இன்னொரு challenge கொடுத்தாரு. See, அந்த காலத்துல இப்போ ஒரு institution போனோன்னா if you went to any institution, ஏதாவது காலேஜ் வந்து அங்கே ஒரு கம்யூனிகேஷன் சிஸ்டம் இருக்கும். அந்த கம்யூனிகேஷன் சிஸ்டம் அந்த எவ்ரி ஆஃபீஸில் அந்த காலத்தில் இந்த யூனிவர்சிட்டி ஆஃப் மெடிசன் அண்ட் டென்டிஸ்ட்ரி ஆஃப் நியூ ஜெர்சி அதான் பேர் இந்த காலேஜுக்கு. எவ்ரி ஆஃபீஸில் ஒரு 1000 ஆஃபீஸர்ஸ் இருந்துச்சு இந்த 3 கேம்பஸில். எவ்ரி ஆஃபீஸில் ஒரு செக்ரட்டரி இருப்பாங்க. சரி, அந்த காலத்தில் வந்து விமென் அவங்க தான் செக்ரட்டரி. 3 ஜாப்ஸ் உமனுக்கு அந்த காலத்தில். செக்ரட்டரி தெரியுமா, டீச்சர் ஒரு நர்ஸ், அவ்வளோதான். இப்போ வந்து ஒரு உமன் கேன் பி அ டாக்டர், ஷி கேன் பி அ கம்ப்யூட்டர் சயின்டிஸ்ட் எல்லாம். பட் அந்த காலத்தில் only 3 ஜாப்ஸ் ஒரு உமனுக்கு. ஸோ இந்த காலேஜில் வந்து ஒரு உமன் இருப்பா. ஈச் ஆஃபீஸ் ஒரு பாஸ் இருப்பாங்க. அவங்க பாஸுக்கு ஒரு செக்ரட்டரி இருப்பாங்க. அந்த செக்ரட்டரி ஹேட் அ டெஸ்க்டாப். அந்த டெஸ்க்டாப்பில் டைப்ரைட்டர் இருக்கும். சரி, ஒரு டைப்ரைட்டர் இருக்கும். எல்லாரும் டைப்ரைட்டர் தெரியுமா? லெஃப்ட் அடுத்த சைடு டெஸ்க்டாப் ஒரு இன்பாக்ஸ்னு ஒரு பாக்ஸ் இருக்கும். INBOX இன்பாக்ஸ், ஆக்சுவல் மெட்டல் பாக்ஸ். இன்னொரு பாக்ஸ் இருக்கும் அவுட் பாக்ஸ். இங்கே ஒரு இன்னொரு தேர்ட் பாக்ஸ் இருக்கும் கால் டிராஃப்ட்ஸ், DRAFTS. இதுதான் ஆக்சுவல் பாக்ஸஸ். அவள் டெஸ்க்டாப்பில் ஒரு அட்ரஸ் புக் இருக்கும். பின்னாடி வந்து ஃபைல் ஃபோல்டர்ஸ் இருக்கும். புரியுதா? சவுண்ட் சிமிலர்? ஓகே. அவங்க டேபிளில் பேப்பர் இருக்கும், பாண்ட் பேப்பர், ஒயிட் பாண்ட் பேப்பர் அந்த காலத்தில். இப்போ அவங்க ஒரு மெமோ அடிப்பாங்க டைப்ரைட்டரில் போட்டு டு, ஃப்ரம், சப்ஜெக்ட், ஒரு பாடி, அதை டைப் பண்ணிவிட்டு ஒரு அட்டாச்மெண்ட் போடுவாங்க. பேப்பர் கிளிப் எடுத்து அட்டாச்மெண்ட் போடுவாங்க. ஓகே, இதான் வந்து டெஸ்க்டாப், லிட்ரலி த டெஸ்க்டாப். அவங்க வந்து அந்த மெமோ அடித்து ஒரு இன்டர் ஆஃபீஸ் மெயில் ஆன்வலோப்பில் போடுவாங்களே, டை அப் பண்ணி ஈதர் ஒரு ஆள்கள்கிட்ட கொடுப்பாங்க ஆர் ஒரு நுமேட்டிக் டியூப்ஸ் இருக்கும். அந்த டியூப்ஸை போட்டு இட் வில் கோ ஃப்ரம் ஒன் ஆஃபீஸ் டு another. இது வந்து இன்டர் ஆஃபீஸ் மெயில் சிஸ்டம். இப்படி தான் பிரசிடென்ட், பிரைம் மினிஸ்டர், பிஸ்னஸ்மேன், எவ்ரி ஒன் யூஸ் திஸ் சிஸ்டம் டு டிரான்ஸ்போர்ட் மெயில். ஸோ மைக்கேல்சன் வந்து சேலஞ்ச் கொடுத்தாரு. சார் சிவா, உனக்கு ஒரு பெரிய சேலஞ்ச் கொடுக்க பாரு. இந்த ஹோல் சிஸ்டமை கன்வெர்டட் டு தி எலக்ட்ரானிக் ஃபார்ம். கன்வெர்ட் இன்டர் ஆஃபீஸ் மெயில் சிஸ்டம். அந்த கீவேர்டு வந்து சிஸ்டம். சரியா? சும்மா எக்ஸ்சேஞ்ச் டெலிகிராஃப் மாதிரி இல்லை. இந்த ஹோல் சிஸ்டம் ஒரு 100 ஃபீச்சர்ஸ் இது இருந்துச்சு. இன்பவுண்ட், அவுட்பவுண்ட், இன்பாக்ஸ், ஆல் த ஃபீச்சர்ஸ், ரெஜிஸ்டர்ட் மெயில், செக்யூரிட்டி எல்லாம். ஸோ அதான் நான் பண்ணேன். 14 years old. 14-year-old Tamil Indian boy did this. Now you have to remember, I was in India, I was in US only 7 years. 7 years before that I was in India. I was still an Indian citizen. So email was created by an Indian citizen. So when I created email, all the features panna, 50,000 lines of Fortran code. I worked day and night. Enga school vande, so appa namma were very supportive. Second, I had a good guru. But அந்த காலத்தில் இந்த பப்ளிக் ஸ்கூல் சிஸ்டம் ஒரு டீச்சர் இருந்தாங்க. அவங்க வந்து சண்டை போட்டு ஹோல் அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் சண்டை போட்டு they changed the rules. Because remember, நான் வந்து I was supposed to be in school. School system rules are changed பண்ணிட்டு, so I could take off from the middle of school, travel 40 miles and work. I was a full-time worker at 14. Michelson had one rule, and the rule வந்து I will let you work here, but நீ வந்து ப்ரொஃபஷ்னலாக இருக்கணும். I will treat you as the same. I was not treated less, no caste system there. Number one, I had to produce and I had to do good work. Right? Merit. So I did that. I built this system. I was a software engineer. I was a customer service person. I had to train people in the Mari. I would run seminars at the age of 14, 15, training people. So that was the inter-office mail system in electronic format. Now I called the system email. EMAIL. எதுக்கு email and கூப்பிட்டேன் தெரியுமா? It's an interesting story. It's not an obvious term. Because in the Fortran language, everything had to be 6 characters, uppercase. But on the operating system, எல்லாருக்கும் Android இருக்குல்ல, iOS இருக்குல்ல, அந்த காலத்தில் இன்னொரு ஆப்ரேட்டிங் சிஸ்டம் இருந்துச்சு, HP RTE4 ஆப்ரேட்டிங் சிஸ்டம். அந்த ஆப்ரேட்டிங் சிஸ்டமில் only 5 கேரக்டர் யூஸ் பண்ணலாம் application namesக்கு. அதுக்கு தான் I called it email. Again, in the term no one had used before. So not only did this 14-year-old Tamil Indian boy create the technology, but he also called it email. So if you look Oxford English Dictionary, Webster Dictionary, they have the term only after 1978. So that's number 2 fact. இப்போ அந்த காலத்தில் வந்து there was no legal protection for software. No legal protection. யாருக்கும் புரியல என்ன சாஃப்ட்வேர்ன்ட்டு. லீகலாக தெரியாரு எப்படி இதை ப்ரொடெக்ட் பண்ணணும். வந்து காப்பிரைட் ஆக்ட் ஆஃப் 1976 இருந்துச்சு. அந்த காப்பிரைட் ஆக்ட் லீகலாக இட் ஓன்லி லெட் யூ ப்ரொடெக்ட் மியூசிக் அண்ட் லிட்ரேச்சர், நாவல்ஸ், ஒரு மூவி ஸ்கிரிப்ட், அதான் காப்பிரைட் பண்ணலாம். 1980 the Copyright Act, by the way, software patenting இருக்குல்ல, US Supreme Court didn't even recognize software patents. That's how new software was. But remember, I'm only a 14-year-old boy. I wasn't like Bill Gates, whose parents were lawyers along. So 1980, the United States changed the law, and the Copyright Act 1976 amended பண்ணாங்க to become the Software Act of 1980. அந்த அமெண்ட்மெண்ட் வந்து it allowed you to protect software. 1981, I went to MIT. I was elected student body leader, MIT. I went to the president's house. Accidentally, president could have passed it in there. But you know, it's unfortunate. Supreme Court doesn't allow you to patent software. You should copyright it. So again, I didn't have lawyers. I didn't have, எங்க அப்பா அம்மாக்கு they didn't have that much cost to support this. I wrote to the Copyright Office. They sent me the form. I filled it out, submitted it, and so on August 30th, 1982, Shiva Ayyadurai receives the first US copyright for email, recognizing a Tamil Indian as the official inventor of email. Shariya, that's what happened up until 1982. So as Dr. Karthik said, in August 30th, Digital India Foundation is hosting an event called Email at 33. And we're going to discuss the history of email, the future of email, etc. So today, there's 20,000 crore email transferred every day. 20,000 crore email transferred every day. 4.2 billion email addresses, active email addresses. In 1978, there was 2. Me and Dr. Michelson. Yeah. So 4.2 billion. So email is an explosive medium. Even social media irukke, but still 10 times more electronic commerce takes place through email. Email is a medium that you build relationships with. So Amitabh Bachchan may have 11 million Twitter followers, but how many people know his email address? Very few. So email is a defining medium that defines your relationship with somebody. Okay, so email is a very powerful medium still today. So what happened? I went to MIT. I did 4 degrees, electrical engineering. I have a degree in design and art, mechanical engineering. And in 2007, I did my degree in systems biology. I was always very interested in medicine. Remember, Patima, very interested in medicine. And the email was almost a diversion, Mari. Purira? So I went in and out of MIT wanting to always do medicine. Shariya? That's what my interest. Now in 2003, I came back to MIT. I'd done 4 or 5 companies. I would go to MIT, do a degree, leave, start a company. Go to MIT, leave, start a company. In fact, in 1993, a company I started in email called Echo Mail. Completely different than email. Echo Mail. அந்த காலத்தில் 1993, President Clinton was getting நிறைய emails. White House was receiving lots of inbound emails. ஸோ அதை எப்படி ஹேண்டில் பண்ணாங்க தெரியுமா? உங்கள் மாதிரி ஆள்களை யூஸ் பண்ணி ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்காக ரீட் பண்ணி, மேனுவலாக ரீட் பண்ணி ஒரு 147 buckets இருக்கும். Education issue, drug issue, and they'd put it in the bucket and write a form letter. But 1993, 5,000 emails were coming. It was doubling every month. So White House ran a contest. I was doing my PhD at the time at MIT. And the contest was, could you develop an artificial intelligence system? Artificial intelligence, therima? Or robotic system, automatically read panni, categorize panna. So now I participate panna, but I was only a student still, and I won that competition. So I left MIT, in the middle of the PhD, and I started a new company called EchoMail. EchoMail was made in India. It was built in India. In fact, many of the people are back there who built EchoMail. Yeah, you should clap, it's good. So we grew EchoMail to a $250 million company. All of the major brands in the world, Citigroup, American Express, used our technology to read and analyze email. So that was one of the several companies we did. But in 2003, I came back to MIT because MIT had opened up a new department called Systems Biology. You see, எனக்கு வந்து ரொம்ப இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் எப்படி இந்த ஆயுர்வேதா சித்தா ஒர்க்ஸ் பிகாஸ் நம்ம ட்ரெடிஷ்னல் சிஸ்டம்ஸ் மெடிசன் ஹோல் பாடியை பார்த்தோம். வெஸ்டர்ன் சிஸ்டம் மெடிசன் வந்து கண்ணை பார்ப்பாங்க. இப்போ ஒரு ஹெட்ஏக் இருந்துச்சுன்னா 4 ஸ்பெஷலிஸ்ட் சென்ட் பண்ணுவாங்க. நியூராலஜிஸ்ட், சைக்காலஜிஸ்ட், ரைட், ஆப்தமாலஜிஸ்ட் அண்ட் சம் அதர் ஜிஸ்ட் சென்ட் பண்ணுவாங்க. பட் நம்ம இந்தியன் சிஸ்டம் ஹோல் பாடி அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணுவோம். ஸோ 2003ல் MIT ஒரு நியூ டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்டை ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுச்சு. எதுக்கு தெரியுமா? அந்த ஹியூமன் ஜீனோம் ப்ராஜெக்ட் had ended. When the genome project started in mid-1995, அவங்க நினைச்சாங்க what is the difference between you and ஒரு நண்டு? நண்டுனா worm, right? எப்படி சொல்லுங்க? Worm? No, worm. So அவங்க நினைச்சாங்க the difference between a human being ஒரு நண்டு வந்து the number of genes. சரியா? So அவங்க நினைச்சாங்க நம்மளுக்கு வந்து 1 lakh genes, ஒரு wormக்கு வந்து maybe 20,000 genes. When the Human Genome Project ended in 2002, they found out we have the same number of genes as a worm, as a nundu, okay? Same number. So this opened up this new field called systems biology, recognizing that we're not just our genes, we're more than the genes. We're in interconnection. So 2003, at the age of 40, I came back to MIT to do my PhD in systems biology. 2007, what we had created was a new technology. So if email was the electronic version of the Office desktop, I created a new technology called CytoSolve. CytoSolve was the electronic version of the human cell. You see, today, when they create a medicine, and the drug, Pfizer, major pharmaceutical companies, when they create a medicine, they take 15 years to create one medicine. During the first 6-7 years, வந்து நிறைய மிருகங்களை கொல்வாங்க, right? Animal test பண்ணுவாங்க. Then they will do human testing, okay? That takes 15 years, $5 billion to create one drug. This is the Western innovation. And the drug also causes many side effects. So in the new technology we created in 2007, could கம்ப்யூட்டர்ல நம்ம செல் இருக்கல ஹியூமன் பயாலஜியை மாடல் பண்ணலாம். This means we didn't have to kill animals. We don't have to do animal testing. It was a major revolutionary breakthrough. And the technology use பண்ணி what we did was pancreatic cancer, தெரியுமா? Cancer. அந்த cancer அந்த technology use பண்ணி மாடல் பண்ணோம் mathematically. Then we looked at the 262 combination drugs and we found a new combination that was can help in pancreatic cancer, and within 11 months FDA allowed us to go to clinical trials. In 11 months. Okay? Now why is this important? Because right now Western medicine வந்து ஒரு single compound கொடுப்பாங்க. See, Western innovation is based on divide, dominate and destroy. Okay? Divide, dominate and destroy. அதான் அவங்க philosophy. ஒரு பாடி எடுத்து டிவைட் பண்ணுவாங்க, அது ஒரு ஏரியாவை டாமினேட் பண்ணுவாங்க, அதை டிஸ்ட்ராய் பண்ணுவாங்க, கீமோதெரப்பி எக்ஸெட்ரா. நம்ம ஈஸ்டர்ன் சிஸ்டம் ஆஃப் மெடிசன் இஸ் நாட் பேஸ்ட் ஆன் டிவைட், டாமினேட் அண்ட் டிஸ்ட்ராய். இட்ஸ் பேஸ்ட் ஆன் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங் த ஹோல், ஹோலிசம், ஹோலிஸ்டிக். தென் யூ டூ காம்பினேஷன் தெரப்பி. யூ டோன்ட் டாமினேட், யூ டூ காம்பினேஷன். ஸோ நம்ம சித்தர்ஸ் எல்லாம் பார்த்தாங்களா, ஒரு மெடிசன் கொடுக்க மாட்டாங்க, மிக்ஸ் பண்ணுவாங்க. உங்களுக்கு இன்னொரு மெடிசன் கொடுப்பாங்க, யூ வில் கெட் அ டிஃப்ரெண்ட் மெடிசன், ரைட்? பர்சனலைஸ்ட். இதான் நம்ம இனோவேஷன் சிஸ்டம். அதெல்லாம் மறந்துட்டோம். ஸோ நாங்கள் வந்து அந்த சேம் ஃபிலாசபியை சைட்டோசால்வுக்கு யூஸ் பண்ணுறோம். We didn't use one drug, combination யூஸ் பண்ணுறோம். ஸோ cytosolve is again made in India, made in Chennai. Okay? So yes, you should clap. It is your technology. It's coming from the Indian soil. Cytosolve, if email was a revolution, Cytosolve will be even a bigger revolution. We are now using Cytosolve to prove Nama Siddha medicine, Ayurveda, that proving that it works because we can model things at the molecular level. Okay? So why am I telling you all of this? You see, if you go back to 1657, if you go back to Indian history, when the story came out in 2012 that an Indian boy invented email, February 16, 2012, Smithsonian wanted all my materials because Yanga Amma in 2011 was dying of pulmonary fibrosis. Remember, the problem with Nama Tamilians and Indians is we're not good promoters. Western world is great at propaganda, okay? Right? They are excellent at propaganda, so they'll take something simple and they'll say they did it. They'll take something Marconi did and even steal innovations, when J.C. Bose clearly invented radio. If you read your history books, go to the section on elliptical orbits of planets. Adar Kepler. It's clear Aryabhatta did it 200 years ago, but Nama Indians, we don't even fight for our right to be in the history books because we've been brainwashed. Right? We should all be fighting to make sure that history book is changed. It says Aryabhatta. We should be fighting to say radio doesn't say Marconi. Yes, someone would have invented radio at some point. That is a fact. But J.C. Bose was the first to do it. Yes, someone would have invented email. But V.A. Shiva Ayyadurai, 14-year-old boy, was the first to do it. That should be properly recorded. So February 16th, the Smithsonian takes my material. Amma in 2011 was dying of pulmonary fibrosis, and in a suitcase she had left all the materials, and she gave it to me. Or a friend Vandam, he's a professor of media, he said, Shiva, you invented email, why haven't you told anyone? You see, when you're a true artist or a true inventor, you don't seek fame or fortune. You're moving on to your next innovation. So I never thought a lot about it. I know I invented it, but I never wanted the fame for it. So he then invited our editor, a journalist, our name on the Doug Emmett from Time magazine. Doug spent 3 weeks looking at it very carefully, and he wrote an article called The Man Who Invented Email, November 11th, 2011. Then Smithsonian, which is the #1 museum in the world where Alexander Graham Bell's telephone is, where Edison's light bulb is, they wanted all the documents for the invention of email. So we in fact gave them the code. Now, February 16th, our Washington Post reporter, she wrote a very nice article. V.A. Shiva honored as the inventor of email. Should have been a day for celebration, right? Yes. But you have to understand, on the 35 years between 1978 to 2012, ஒரு பெரிய company, Raytheon, $50 billion defense company, அவங்க நல்ல propaganda PR people hire பண்ணி, they had written ஒரு false story. அவங்க text messaging பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தாங்க, rudimentary form of text messaging. அதை என் term email label பண்ணி பெருசா அவங்க தான் inventor of email பண்ணாங்க. எதுக்கு தெரியுமா? Because Raytheon was in the cyber security business in 2009. They wanted to make money and position themselves as a different brand. You see, America is great at brand building, okay? You've heard that term, brand building, right? When they do brand building, it's okay, but when we try to tell the truth, they say that's ego to self-promotion. So what happened was Raytheon, here's Raytheon, has its group of historians, and they fund this group. This group starts saying this Indian is all sorts of horrible words, you can read it, but they also said this curry-stained Indian should be beaten and hanged. Okay? This is in 2012. This curry-stained Indian should be beaten and hanged by his dhoti. How dare he say that he's the inventor of email? Think about that. You can be a CEO of Google. You can be the CEO of Microsoft. But you better not say that you are the inventor of email. Think about that. So what did I do? You see, they forgot that I was not just a nice, humble Indian. You see, When I went to MIT, what people forgot was not only was I creating things, but I had learned history. I studied with Noam Chomsky. I had gone to MIT to study history also. I spent my time in the library studying history. I discovered Yazik and the caste system existed. Purira? What I shared with you is from my own learnings. I learned where the caste system came from. I learned how Indians had been oppressed. There's a picture of me, if you go on the internet, burning the South African flag because MIT had investments in South Africa. I organized a student paper which made sure the food service workers got better wages. I made sure more black people came into MIT, more women came into MIT. They didn't know that I was also not only a scientist, but also a revolutionary. They thought they were just dealing with another Indian guy who they could say stuff and he'll just disappear. But that didn't happen. They made a big miscalculation. Big miscalculation. So what did I do? I used my brain. We built a site called Inventor of Email. We went and researched everything. You see, when the people start beating you, you think something is wrong with you. It's a very interesting thing how oppression works. But we found documents. The word email never appears before 78. Not only that, we found a document which clearly said in December 1977 that there was no intention to create email. They thought it was impossible. Okay? Now, why did they think it was impossible, these so-called experts? Because avanga vandu military la irundanga. They were trying to exchange text messages, but that 14-year-old boy was doing something very different. You see, what I didn't tell you was on the secretaries irundangla, they were women. What email did was revolutionary because a woman in those days was supposed to sit at her typewriter and sit there for 8 hours a day and listen to her boss tell her what to do. She was like a slave to her boss. The thought of her, avanga vandu ஒரு computer use பண்ணா, that was inconceivable. Because who used computers in 1970? Vellakarangal, white males, and the computer was the size of this room. It was only for very technical people. So the concept of a secretary using a computer was inconceivable. But the 14-year-old boy did not think it was impossible. You see, that 14-year-old boy took that secretary from the typewriter to the terminal. He broke a major wall. He broke a caste system in some sense. Yes. So that was a revolution of email. Email was the first software application which enabled a secretary to move away from that typewriter and move to the world of computing. That is what made email revolutionary. And it was an Indian who did that. But here's the important thing. Now, Indians have been innovating for 5,000 years. 5,000 years Indians have been innovating. 5,000 years. But only in the last 300 years, suddenly நம்ம innovation conferences தான் run பண்றோம். எப்படி innovate பண்ணணும்? Can we innovate as good as America? Those are stupid questions. They're the wrong questions. Indians have been innovating for 5,000 years. Now, the right question is, how did we innovate 5,000 years ago? We don't need Bill Gates as our model. We don't need Steve Jobs. We don't need Mark Zuckerberg. Because by taking on the symbols, what are we telling our children? Think about it, it's a psychological manipulation. What about a dark-skinned kid? What about J.C. Bose? What about Aryabhatta? What about Ramanujam? Why are we teaching our kids this into their brain? You see, we are continuing the brainwashing. And what do? If we start copying chumma avanga models of innovation copy pannana, we're going to introduce GMOs into India. We're going to bring chemicals into India. Right? We're going to bring avanga model of healthcare. You see, the Western healthcare system was designed for war. So when you careful apatan and the invention of email slow, it's not only invention of email. It's not about me. You see, the invention of email is your invention. But when you look at Yazika vandu ivlavu angry aananga theriyuma, because the Western innovation model is based on the following. Most of their innovations are based on war, killing people. And I mean this. If you really look at most of the big Western innovations, they're based on death. So avanga healthcare system parunga. When was it developed? It was developed during wartime. ஒரு soldier அடிச்சாங்க, his கண்ணு got hurt. How do we put him back on the battlefield? Surgery, antibiotics, steroids. அதுக்கெல்லாம் நல்லது. So Western innovation creates stuff for war. Everyone following me? Secondary market வந்து அது எப்படி ஒரு நல்ல branding போட்டு package பண்ணிட்டு civilian லைஃபுக்கு போடுவாங்க. So now you have Apollo, Fortis, now they brand that Western healthcare system and they sell it to us. It's good after ஒரு crisis, car accident, அதுக்கெல்லாம் நல்லது. Third step that they do is they put down நம்ம own system. So Ayurveda, Siddha, அதெல்லாம் terrible. அது heavy metals இருக்கு, உங்களை poison பண்ணிரும், இந்த மாதிரி propaganda. Okay? So 3-step process. Second, I'll give you another example. Look at TNT, trinitrotoluene, explosive cellular. World War I, that was built, Haber process, nitrogen fixation. Very nice technology for blowing up people. Okay? First market. Then when World War II ended, they said, okay, we have all these plants, what do we do? Oh, let us now put nitrogen into fertilizer. Okay? Adu pani, they created a nice propaganda campaign called the Green Revolution. So Indians all started using fertilizer. Thousands of years, Indians didn't need nitrogen fixation. We used our own organic form of farming. Then the third step was to say, oh, you Indians must use our fertilizer. You have growing population, you need this. Same thing is going on with GMOs. And most of the media, because Monsanto and these companies pay off the media, at least in the US, India actually is a little better. But no one does any research anymore. So remember, the US uses propaganda. I always say this, ஒரு Indian politician is ஒரு குழந்தை compared to an American corrupt politician. They're குழந்தை. American corruption is at a different order of magnitude. So what I want to conclude with is saying that we as Indians should not be looking over there. When namma history of innovation, including the innovation of email, including the invention of radio, Aryabhatta, you keep going, comes from this soil right here. You see, the wealthiest people, பணக்காரங்கள் இருக்காங்களா யூஎஸ்ல, அவங்கெல்லாம் என்ன பண்றாங்க? They study yoga. They go to ashrams, Sri Ravi, whoever it is, right? They're eating organic food. They want to eat biodynamic food. But we're bringing in GMOs. We're blindly following their system. 1.2 billion people cannot survive on the US form of innovation. We need to realize our form of innovation. That's why that symbol of that 14-year-old boy is very important. It's not about me. Every Indian should know that symbol. So next time they're bringing up their child, they realize, wait a minute, this is our indigenous innovation. We have our own innovators. And the brainwashing we must stop. So when I gave my Indian Independence Day speech on August 15th, you see, 1947, we didn't get independence. This is the truth. What we got was transfer of power. We went from white men with crowns to brown men with white hats. But today, this August 15th, we should free our minds. We should free our minds by recognizing we have our own innovators, and we need to free ourselves. We need to go back to our own dignity. And we can start, and this is what our rishis said. Our rishis said, look within, right? That is our culture. Our culture is look within, look within, look within. Sit still and look within. So the message of that 14-year-old boy is still important today, which is that Indians have been innovating for 5,000 years, and we need to get back to our own roots of innovation, and we need to promote ourselves. Every child should know who invented email. It shouldn't be that we have to learn later. Every child should know. Everyone should defend that invention. Because it's not me you're defending, it's you're inventing, and your children's children's children, and your grandparents, and their grandparents. Thank you. Do you want to do some questions and answers? I think we'll take some questions and answers. Yes. Do you want a mic? Or are you okay? Maybe you should stand up and... Yeah. ஆமாம்.
அப்ளிகேஷனை வெட்டணும்னா பரவாயில்ல வெட்டிக்கணும்னு சொல்ற ஒரு மைண்ட் செட்ல தான் மக்கள் வேல்ட் இருந்தது. ஆஃப்டர் இன்வென்டிங் இமெயில் ஹார்ட் காப்பிங்கிற விஷயம் வேணாம், அது ஒரு தேவையான விஷயம் ஆயிடுச்சு. ஸோ ஆஃப்டர் இன்வென்டிங் இமெயில் எந்த அளவுக்கு இந்த ஃபீஸ் கட்டிங் குறைஞ்சிருக்கு, யூசேஜ் ஆஃப் லெட் காரியம் வந்து அட்டாச் டு ஹெல்த் ஆக்சுவலி அது பிக்மெண்ட்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்ணுறது எந்த அளவுக்கு குறைஞ்சிருக்கு, இதை பற்றி நான் உங்கள்கிட்ட ஐடியா.
நல்ல கொஸ்டின். அவர் நல்ல காமெண்ட் எல்லாருக்கும் கேட்டிங்களா? அவர் பாயிண்ட் வந்து பிகாஸ் ஆஃப் தி இன்வென்ஷன் ஆஃப் இமெயில், I think now 20,000 crore email per day. 20,000 crore email per day. So if we put that, evla paper, evla ink, I haven't done the calculation, we should do that. I think I told Hari, Hari enga irukkaru? I told Hari, we'll figure that calculation out. We'll go from 1978 to today, how many paper was saved, how much ink was saved, how much lead was saved, how much toxicity was saved. And pigments. So in many ways, the invention of email is an eco-friendly thing. And it was done by an Indian, but Indians have always been eco-friendly. History of all Indian inventions was always eco-friendly. This is a very important point you're bringing up. Good question. So our question கேட்கிறாரு, எந்த future of email. So remember, it's an excellent question. First of all, what is email? எல்லாரும் நினைச்சாங்க when chat came out, email would die. When social media came out, email would die, right? So to answer that question, we should clearly understand what is email. Remember, email came from the inter-office mail system. Between 1978 to 1993, most of email, you didn't need the internet. It was done in local area networks, office lab. It is basically a business application. So after 1993, when the web came, then email moved from the office to becoming a personal application. And appadan confusion aache. Because now you had three mediums running: text messaging, email, and then you started seeing social media around 2000. So everyone, starting 1993, people say, oh, email is going to die. Texting will replace email. When social media came, Mark Zuckerberg made a very stupid statement. He said email is dead. Because he himself doesn't understand the origin of email. You see, email comes from the inter-office mail system. It's a business application. Now, if you look very carefully, Patana, texting is the short messages, short messaging. Texting goes to in the sticky notes, chinna note sticky note. That is equivalent of texting. But if you go even before, thousands of years ago, people did smoke signals, drum beating. So there's this one lineage of short messaging. Shariya? Now you look at another lineage. So you look at social media, adu the Facebook posts, blog posts, adu the community messaging. So if I put a Facebook post, everyone sees it. But that is no different than the bulletin board. School alla or bulletin board irukula. But even if you go back 2,000 years ago, or 5,000 or 10,000 years ago, people did cave paintings. Cave'la ஒரு whole village paint பண்ணுவாங்க. அது community messaging. So cave paintings, bulletin boards, etc. Now email lineage it's for business. So அந்த காலத்துல papyrusல எழுதுவாங்க commerce-க்கு. That became the letter. The letter became the memo became email. So the first thing is, as long as there is business, email will be there. So anyone who tells you email is dead doesn't know what they're talking about. Okay, that's the first. So the future of email is going to be here for a long time. 4.2 billion accounts and growing. So what is the future? So if you realize email came from that inter-office mail system, in the old days the boss would be here and he would dictate to the secretary. Secretary would type everything up. Email vandappo, we all became secretaries, right? There's no more boss. 35% of CEOs use email, are on email. 35% of their time, 35% of their time is spent on email. So we've all become secretaries. So the future of email, in my belief, is we're going to start adding artificial intelligence. So the email system is going to become a secretary. You will dictate to it, right? It will do sorting, because in the old Kalatla, the secretary would sort the inbox. She would throw out the junk, trash. So we're going to see more intelligent features in email system. So we can go back to the future. You see what I'm saying? We'll go back to the future. So now you can do more, because in the old days, boss வந்து edit தான் பண்ணுவாரு, dictate பண்ணுவாரு, drafts folder வந்து edit பண்ணுவாரு, திருப்பி வைப்பார், everything else got automated by the secretary, quote unquote automated. So one future is we're going to see more artificial intelligence. The other thing will happen is people are going to realize there are these three modes of communication. You'll sometimes use chat, that is for informal communication. You'll use social media for community communication. And you'll use email for business. Okay? So in the realization is also going to happen, and people will work together. So Facebook tried to do chat and social media. They tried to add email, but they failed. But Google Plus has all three, if you notice. You can do email, you can do chat, and you can also do the Google circles. So I hope on the question I answered properly. Yeah, one question, yeah.
Any developments in future? Any extra things will be...
With email? Yeah, so so the biggest thing with email right now is the question of free email, okay? In 1990, about 2 years ago, I did a consulting project for the US Postal Service. If you remember 2011, the Postal Service is going bankrupt. So one of the big things concerning this issue is the concept of security and privacy. You see, we all sign up for Gmail, Hotmail, free email. And the free email, நம்ம freedom கொடுத்துட்டோம். Because அவங்க privacy statement closer read பண்ணானா, they own your email. Okay? So one of my suggestions to the Postal Service, I wrote a report. In fact, they showed them how the Postal Service can actually make money. See, Postal Service it was designed, at least in the US and in fact here, to make sure if I sent you a letter, or I sent you a letter, or you sent him a letter, that if anyone stopped that letter, it's a criminal violation. 20 years, and in the US 20 years in prison. Okay, no one can open someone's letter in the middle. Confidentiality. But if I send you a Hotmail email, Microsoft actually, it's still their email. So one of my views is that the postal services should actually offer an email service. Maybe they can charge 50 rupees, 100 rupees, $50 a year. You'll pay for it because that is protected now by democratic laws. Privacy. Because if I send you an email and let's say Hotmail opens it, it's their email. But if someone opens it, if it's a government service email, there are all of these democratic laws that will protect us. So that's one of the things things need to be done. Because you think about what happened in Egypt. Remember in Egypt when the revolution was breaking, the students were protesting, it was growing. Suddenly Mubarak called up Vodafone and they shut down everything. Okay? They cannot do that with the Postal Service because the democratic laws support the Postal Service. So we're in a very, very interesting situation with email around privacy, in my opinion. Privacy, we don't really have any privacy. Edward Snowden has shown that we are all basically subject to private companies right now. So it's a very dangerous world in terms of privacy. Yeah. It's a very interesting question, but it's a wrong question. It was India which inspired me to create email. You see what I'm saying? It's a very difficult question because if I was not in India, had not gone to Rajapalam, had not seen my parents work hard, maybe I would have been fat, dumb, and happy here. Maybe I would have just stayed in Bombay, my parents were making money, maybe I wouldn't have done anything. That's சொல்ல முடியாது, right? I mean, India has created people. India did create J.C. Bose, India has created Ramanujam, that was done here. So we have to stop asking in the many questions, would you have done that here? America is actually, 30% of NASA is Indians. What percent of Microsoft is Indians? We are always doing the innovation. In the many questions we have to stop this, don't take it wrong way, right? நம்மள brainwash பண்ணிருக்காங்க. நம்ம wrong questions கேட்டுட்டு இருக்கோம். நம்ம தான் inventors, நம்ம தான் innovators. You follow what I'm saying? The issue is how do we get back to doing what we were doing and getting credit for it? That is the issue. Okay, the issue we should be asking is everyone should go back and figure out how we're going to go change the history books to tell the truth. Because on the truth that we'll realize we've always been innovators. British used to steal shipbuilding blueprints from India up to 1800s, okay? Think about that. Yes?
Right now, we are using a Gmail, Hotmail, and domain name, etc. You start up in a starting stage, right? Starting stage, what will be using? Gmail or email? நீங்க start for Gmail use பண்ணிக்கிட்டு domain name use பண்ணுவோம். Start பண்ணும்போது Gmail ல இருந்துச்சா?
Oh, you mean now start பண்ணுறோமா? Okay, that's a good question. You see, first of all, you don't need the internet for email. Okay? So when I came out, if you go to Wikipedia, they started destroying my pages, doing all this stuff, saying you need the internet. You don't need the internet. I could set up 10 computers right now, connect what's called a local area network, and put an email program on it. You don't need a domain. We used to run this on a local area network. It was only when the web came, right, starting in 1993, that they put a different, they had the whole concept of domain name servers, and that is relatively new, 1993. Before 1993, 1978 to 1993, you'll see after I invented email in 82, then you had Ayyadurai, you had Lotus Notes. These were all in the office environment. So you don't need the .com, .this to run email, okay? That is a parallel situation. So don't confuse the need for email with the need for having the web. Okay, two different systems. After 93, when the web came, people put a user interface on the web, like Hotmail, Yahoo, and that became web-based mail. But you don't need the web to run, in fact, you don't need the internet for email. Is that clear?
What is the reason to bring up this issue now? You have invented email on 1970s. So you are bringing this issue on 2015. Any reason for this?
Why do you think?
That's why I'm asking.
Right, so the issue is, I didn't even seek fame or fortune for this. Remember, in 2012, so just to be clear, maybe you didn't follow what I was saying. So in 2011, my mother was dying of pulmonary. 2012, it went into the Smithsonian. I never really cared about bringing this up. I've been doing 20 other innovations. After 2012, when it went into the Smithsonian, people started calling me all sorts of names. This curry-stained Indian should be beaten. How dare he say invented email? That's when it became an issue. Do you follow? We didn't create an issue. The reason we're having this discussion today is this shouldn't be a big issue, right? Had I been trained to have a good PR team, to do promotion back in 82, but remember, I was only a 15-year-old kid. You follow me? What 14-year or 15-year-old kid knows how to go get a lawyer, PR, etc., okay? But I went on to do other things. It was only in 2012 when it went into the Smithsonian. Then, after it was a day of celebration, then all these people started denying this. That's when it became an issue, and that's why we are here today discussing this. Did I answer your question? Okay. But it's an important question now that we do need to discuss. I mean, we're discussing this 35 years later, but we also have not discussed what happened in 1657 or 1947. Okay? What's that? This is the right time to discuss. It's an interesting time to discuss this because you do have, we can argue, I don't care about political parties, but you do have a prime minister who's brought up the concept of national identity. He's probably the first prime minister to push forward the concept of I'm an Indian. Made in India or make in India. Well, this is made in India. This is Indian made, right? So I would argue this is a perfect time. I do believe there's a God, and I believe God moves things in very interesting ways. So I believe this is a perfect time to bring this issue up. ஆமா. You don't need that. That's not true. So another question. He said, when I built the inter-office mail system, it was on a local wide area network. Today we need the internet. That's actually not true. There are government systems. They run on what are called private networks. Okay, for security. In fact, some people don't want to be on the internet because it can be hacked. So they'll have communication systems, what are called private networks. Yeah, so our question, when can you send email to your phone to someone else using satellite without using the internet? Definitely. See, what is a network? A network is a set of machines which are communicating among each other. The internet was really developed in case there was a nuclear bomb. So you could have this communication system among multiple points, and TCP/IP really came much after I invented email. SMTP came in 1985 really. You see, I was not using avanga protocol alla. So you don't need, email is not dependent on those protocols. So they have revised history to say you need those protocols, but it's not true. Do you understand? Okay. What over here? Why don't I? Yeah, well, remember when I was when I was 7 years old, I didn't have a choice. But I do live in India. You know, I've been here for. I'll probably go back and forth now more regularly. But right. No, I think you're bringing up a good point. I think the question is, do I want to stay? So timing is wonderful right now for me. You know, I'm 51 years old now. So I am doing what I want, what that 6-year-old boy wanted to do. Remember, I had an interest in discussing the issues of justice and innovation. That's why I'm here. And the other interest is in medicine. We have created 2 companies now, one called Systems Health. One of the things I forgot to tell you was when I came back to India in 2007 on a Fulbright, I discovered the foundational theory of Ayurveda and Siddha. We just published it in a major paper. We have shown scientifically that Ayurveda and Siddha are based on systems theory. Systems theory is a Western science that came out in 1930. So when you think about Vata, Pitta, Kapha, idu theriyala yaarkare? How many people know Ayurveda or Siddha? I know you know. You're an Ayurvedic doctor. But it's amazing how few of you know even your own medicine system. But the foundation of Ayurveda and Siddha is based on the concept of I can look at you and I can diagnose your body based on Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. But if you ask most Ayurvedic doctors, they don't even know what Vata, Pitta, Kapha are. So in the recent discovery I made, I found that Vata, Pitta, and Kapha are directly related to transport, conversion, and storage. These 3 terms are the foundation of Western systems theory. So what I've shown is number rishis and yogis were not simply religious people. They were actually system scientists. They saw the body as an engineering system. So we published this paper in an engineering systems journal. Okay, so that's called Systems Health. We've made it into an online educational program, and the tool we give away for free. And Cytosolve now is a technology for creating new medicines like a Siddhar did, but using the computer. So yeah, so you're probably going to see more of me in India on a regular basis. But it's a very good thought. I do want to do a certain part of my time in inspiring young people about innovation. So I'm very committed to that. One more. How many more questions? Amma, சொல்லுங்க.
Mr. Shiva, as at the moment, an individual has the entitlement to have more than one email ID, like for example, on Gmail, on a Hotmail, on Yahoo Mail. In the future, do you foresee any restriction being imposed by virtue of the simple fact that would be a problem of traffic crossing?
A problem of what?
Too many lines, no, you said so many billions of lines are there, accounts are there.
Amma.
So, if one individual is having one Gmail ID, one Hotmail ID, on Hotmail as well as on Yahoo, is there going to be, what's your take on that? Will there be any restriction in the future?
That's a good question. So the question is there going to be any restrictions on people having multiple email IDs? Well, it's an interesting question because people have multiple phones, some people. People have multiple SIM cards today. Some people have a business email address, and they'll have a personal email address, right? Some people have a personal email address, business email address, and some people may have one address for one person they want to communicate with and another person they want to communicate with. And you can take that to whatever way you want to mean that. But the point is, and some people may have an email address they just use for e-commerce transactions. And some people have email addresses they just use to receive junk mail. So I don't know if there's going to be restrictions, but what is happening is people are actually having multiple email addresses, and they'll have one email address that these other addresses can forward to or map to, but the other people won't know about this address. In some sense, it's having a private email address which maps to multiple individual addresses that they use for different things. So your people at your employment may know one address, your friends may know another address, and your very close friends may have something else. The friends of mine who are celebrities, for example, they will have very different email addresses for security reasons. So I think the reality is people will have different email addresses and they'll map them to one address. Now there is some potential way that you could keep one email address and segregate the folders into how you receive email, but that technology hasn't evolved that well yet. Yeah, so my email address, I'll give it to you since everyone's here. It's vashiva@vashiva.com. V is in Victor A. Shiva @vashiva.com. Normally I bring a whole PowerPoint, but we didn't want to do that this time. vashiva@vashiva.com.
So billions of email IDs are there. Could you share the first email ID you used?
Yeah, the email ID we used at that time was just shiva.umdnj. See, we don't need the @ logo. @ logo is, you can use any symbol. We used a dot. So shiva.umdnj. U meaning University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey. In fact, we called each location, instead of a domain, we called it a zip node. Like zip code, ZIPNODE. It was called nodes on a network. One more question? Excuse me? என்ன பார்ட்டியா என்ன? What's my idea? Yeah, so I think one question வந்து எங்க பாட்டி வந்து சித்தர் மெடிசன் பண்ணாங்க. What is my idea to promote that? So we have some of the people in my company here. What we're doing now is, so first of all, the problem with nama Siddha and Ayurveda was we have not translated them. They are written in 100,000 palm leaves. People pass it on Gurukul model, right? I pass it to you, you pass it to, etc. So what we're doing is, we are starting to look at the different Siddha and Ayurvedic medicine formulations. With our technology Cytosolve, நாங்க வந்து இந்த different molecular pathways model பண்ணலாம் computerல. So for example, we're modeling cancer. We're modeling mathematically Alzheimer's. We're modeling diabetes, okay? And using on the models, we can look at the Siddha Vaidyams, because the Siddha Vaidyams are not one medicine, combination. இப்போ நம்ம curry powder இருக்குல்ல, curry powder is not one, it's not haldi or manjal, it's haldi, manjal, pepper. It's a combination. The curry is actually a medicine. In fact, curry, it turns out Indians have 1/3 less liver cancer than all of Asia. Asia meaning China, India, because we consume so much curry, particularly in manjal, in the pepper alone. But manjal chumma edutana, it doesn't absorb. So that is why pepper add பண்றாங்க. Pepper is it increases bioavailability of the manjal. So எங்க பாட்டி and the siddhars learned how to do the mixing. So what we're doing now is we're modeling different diseases. We're starting to catalog the different Siddha Vaidyam, and then we want to see which one works, what is the right combination. We're basically going to validate it in technology use பண்ணி. At the pannappa, we want to then offer it to people, or at least write publications validating. Number one is to show nama Siddha Vaidyam had tremendous science to it. See, this is on the part of that, for my party, the goal is, one thing is to validate this, but also to make sure, ungalukkellam theriyunum, that these were science that people did, that when Western medicine says, oh, idella chuma heavy metals irukku, nama vandu proper nama own brain use pannanum. Ezhukku avanga adu appadi solrangante? Because avanga model vandu or medicine vandu or $1,000 க்கு விக்கணும். Suppose you could, முருங்காய் இருக்குல்ல, எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியும் முருங்காய்? முருங்காயா, சரி. இப்போ வந்து ஒரு 2 weeks ago, a new research paper came out. Muringai, if you put it in pancreatic cancer cells, 97% it kills the pancreatic cancer cells. Moringai. Now, moringai is what? 2 paisa, 1 paisa, anyone it grows. You see, Western world வந்து அவங்க என்ன பண்றாங்க தெரியுமா, ஒரு பாடி எடுத்துட்டு டிவைட் பண்றாங்க, இந்த டிசீஸ் அந்த டிசீஸ். பட் நம்ம ஆயுர்வேதா சித்தால வந்து there is one disease, one solution. Everything is one disease, diet and lifestyle. And there's only one solution, diet and lifestyle. Western medicine, the body எடுத்து ஒரு they split it up into 1,000 parts. Okay, இது வந்து cancer, இது வந்து Alzheimer's, இது வந்து diabetes. But if you look at on the diseases வந்து, it comes down to one disease, which is the gut. You see, நம்ம how do you say colon? Gut இருக்குல்ல, if the bacteria in the gut are at the right levels, you don't have any disease. இப்போ வந்து உங்களுக்கு வந்து 10 trillion cells இருக்கு. I don't know how many zeros there are. 10 trillion. 10 times 10 to the power of 12 cells. But for every cell, 100 microorganisms, okay? So each one of us is a walking jungle. 10 trillion cells, but 1,000 trillion microorganisms. So நம்ம சித்தர்ஸ் அவங்க whole philosophy வந்து அந்த microorganism balance இருக்கணும். அதான், that's the one disease. So when that is off balance, you get Alzheimer's, you get these different diseases. Western medicine likes to have 1,000 diseases because they can sell you 1,000 medicines. And they can make $1,000 billion, okay? So from my party, the question is, with cytosolve, we can show that these diseases are interconnected to the same thing, then we're making a contribution. அதான் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம்.
பாஸ்வேர்ட் ஹேக்கிங்கிறது ஒரு பெரிய விஷயமா இருக்கு. இமெயில்
ஆமா.
இன் ஃபியூச்சர் ஃபிங்கர் பிரிண்ட் ஐபாப் அந்த மாதிரி ஏதாவது அதுல மாற்றம் வர வாய்ப்பு.
ஆமா, there is, I just met someone I just met someone. One of the things they're doing is voice. Okay? One thing that they're doing is that you'll just talk to your computer and you don't need the passwords. So the future will be probably voice and probably some idea fingerprint. But the passwords, after a certain point, it becomes very, very difficult. Good point. One more question? One last question. ஆமா. அமெரிக்காவா? ஆமா, of course. America can do anything it wants. ஆமா, see, the problem is what came out with the Snowden thing was that all of our emails are being watched. Look, once you go electronic, everything is potentially compromised. Everything. So it on the one hand, nariya freedom irukku, but we're also giving away nariya freedom. But the point is, if you want to get into the politics of it, the politics really should be, if we're truly a democratic world, if there's true democracy, we should all have access to understand what is actually going on. But right now, we don't really have a democracy. A few people control all the information, and they have right to it.